Wow.
Okay,
I have
cool.
not joined a Zoom meeting in a while. Figured it out.
Well, thanks for talking to me for a bit. I just wanted to include you because I feel like I'm always talking to you about pivotal stuff that we need to be doing as far as like getting shows going and for sure like during the startup and throughout. So yeah, I
Sure.
wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about that, just your name and your job title.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Alexander Ayer. I am the production coordinator here on Night Court Season 3.
And
Yeah.
And as far as for like sitcoms,
Mm.
what is it like for a typical day for you?
Sure. Yeah.
Like for day
So,
one, let's say.
like day one, like
Yeah, day
starting up the
one.
show. Sure. Yes. I mean, as the production coordinator, right, I am responsible for running the production office, which is the production department that works underneath the producer to kind of like tie a lot of the aspects of the show together. So we do everything from hiring crew to purchasing to securing leases to making sure legal and insurance issues are solved to scheduling the day to approving any money that leaves the show, then kind of catch-all for all of the other things that are encompassed of making a TV show. In addition to that, we're also the main point of contact between the studio, the network, the TV show, the crew, and all the department heads. We're kind of like the hub that kind of joins all the departments together. Um, so day one, when I'm coordinating a TV show, it doesn't matter if it's single cam or multi-cam, right? It's typically a producer will reach out to me. I'd be one of the first people hired on the show, usually. So a line producer will reach out to me and say, "Hey, we're starting a show. We start in a few weeks. Let's get an office set up and all that kind of stuff." So we'll start hiring a team. Underneath me, we typically have an assistant coordinator, secretary, and a couple PAs, depending on the size of the show and what's going on. And then we'll find office space, either in a studio or elsewhere. We'll outfit it with furniture, phones, staff, all that kind of stuff. Then once we have the production office up, that's when we can start helping the producer hire crew, onboard them into payroll, make sure they're in compliance with all the union and safety requirements and all that kind of stuff. And sort of start building the elements of the show on top of that, whether that's getting equipment, securing sound stages, making sure everything's, there and ready to go. So when we get scripts, when the cameras start rolling, all the elements are in place and ready to execute them.
Well, for example, for day one of
hmm
for the table read, how
hmm
much in advance do you have to get all this sorted out?
So it depends. We'll typically have like 6 to 8 weeks before the first table read to kind of get all the elements in place. Um, and it depends if we're coming back for another season or if it's like a brand new show. If it's a brand new show, probably 6 to 8 weeks. And then the line producer will be working for months before that to get like department heads and all that secured. And then, yeah, when we get hired, say we have a table read, August 1st. We'll start a couple months before that to sort of get all the elements in place and get things going.
Do you have certain hours? Like, do you come in at a certain time and leave at a certain time, or are people
Sure.
constantly asking?
That's a great question. No, I don't have any certain hours. I am basically a salaried employee, so I am just on call whenever, and I make a flat rate that justifies that, right? Because we are the more kind of production-centric office staff that kind of aligns more to regular business hours. We're typically working like 8 to 6, 8 to 7 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in that kind of range to like skew with, when typical business hours are happening. But we'll always be here when cameras are rolling. There'll always be somebody from the production department present when the show's shooting. That obviously differs a lot from single cams, where the production department is always there whenever a crew's going and working, round the clock as long as cameras are rolling and crews are working.
Are you able to give an example of like a day where you had to put a crazy fire out as far as like something that happened on the show and you had to take care of it, or you had to get your team to help you with it?
Sure. I mean, that is kind of the production department's job is constantly putting fires out, right?
Right.
Um, Anytime there is an issue on stage or in production, it ends up falling on us, whether or not that's some sort of injury on set, whether that's equipment running late, whether that's food not being there, crew not showing up, actors getting sick. not
Hmm.
having contract points for people and all that sort of stuff. Like all of that is encompassed within the production job. So I always like to look at it as our job is primarily problem solving, right? Everybody
Yeah,
comes to us with problems and we're just putting out fires all day long. And it's never necessarily going 100% smoothly, but that's normal, right? Because stuff happens and there's variance in the day.
yeah,
Um, but no, I mean, luckily for us, Night Court runs pretty smoothly at this point, right? There's not really any serious hiccups that we run into. It could be things like, in the morning at the gate, none of the background have drive-on passes, nobody can enter the lot. It can be
right.
a cast member has a medical issue and we need to get that sorted so they can get on camera. And during COVID, obviously, we had lots of fires we were putting out to that regard. Um, but it's also like not necessarily on this production, but other productions I worked on. We were shooting an LA unit for a show that was based in Atlanta, right? We had cast department heads all flying out to LA to do a few days of photography. Um, we were shooting right before Christmas, going on Christmas break. And
Hmm.
then the main unit was starting back up down in Atlanta. This is for like, a big single cam TV show. We were just doing the LA unit for. Um, Turned out nobody had planned out the cast contracts as to when they should start, to whether or not we would owe them money over breaks and that sort of stuff, right? So we, as this LA Splinter unit that did not know much about the show, had to hire all of these top tier cast, but we had to put them all on contracts. They were paid for like 2 months while they were down for the holidays.
Yeah,
But we had to have them on camera within, a couple of hours from once we found out this information. So, it's scrambling to make deals with these people and to make judgment calls to say, well, it's not really our problem. Someone's going to have to pay this bill. Do we go for it and just contract these people so they're on for more time and the studio spends more money, or do we just cut them? So things like that happen all the time. But I mean, honestly, production is not the most glamorous of departments, right? A lot of the stuff we do is nuts and bolts and not typically seen on screen. Like it's a very important job,
yeah.
but often goes misunderstood, and a lot of the other crew departments don't necessarily know all of what we do because we're often just getting in the way or making it more difficult to do things. But that's, to make sure that we have process and accountability for everything and to make sure everything's happening in a timely manner that is okay with the studio, the show, and the budget.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I appreciate everything you guys do because if I'm not connected to Wi-Fi, a printer, or have access to materials, like my job is not going to be ready for the camera.
For
So
sure.
and so it's just like little delays like that. But I'm like, thankfully, we have you guys to rely on. But I know like a lot of people that are going to be interested in this conversation are going to be people that are outside of the industry that want to get in. So,
Hmm.
which I'm thinking this is like people that you are going to eventually hire and stuff like that. So, what
Sure.
traits do you look for as far as like, for example, somebody who doesn't have studio experience just yet? Like, what
For
kind of
sure.
things would you look for?
Yeah, definitely. So we end up hiring a lot of entry level positions, right? Because in the production department, we have our team of office PAs, and that's normally like the first job that somebody will get working in this industry at shows at this
Right.
scale. So I interview a lot of these candidates and see a lot of this. Honestly, like hard skills working in the entertainment industry are not something that I look for when I'm hiring these roles, right? I don't need to see a resume with TV experience to know that a candidate's gonna work and be good for this. The main thing that I honestly look for is just having a good attitude and work ethic. That goes such a long way. Like
Mhm.
being able to get the sense of a candidate knowing they're going to put in 110% and do it with a smile on their face and be happy to be there. Because a lot of the stuff that we do is
Mhm.
relatively menial, right? It's like fix my Wi-Fi, the trash's not been taken out, go get me lunch, go get me coffee. Like it's all simple stuff that anybody can do, but it's a lot of stuff that gets tired pretty quickly. But having somebody who doesn't matter what time of day it is, will show up with a smile on their face and just get stuff done with a positive attitude is huge. Um, and typically, when I'm looking at resumes, I'm not necessarily looking for you tried to work in film or TV. I'm looking to see, oh, you had a job and were working in the workforce, like doing stuff for a while, right? And that makes a big difference. It really does. But now I always say that the interviews that we end up holding here at Nightclub are more of vibe checks than anything else. We can teach you anything you need to know, but
Mhm.
it's really just having that can-do attitude and be a hard worker that makes you stand out and get ahead so much in this industry, as you know, Hugo. You're very good at that.
Well, yeah, I mean, with you saying that, I mean, we've met, I don't know, years ago on the show Mom, and how did that come about for you? How did you get
Hmm
your start?
I got pretty lucky on Mum, honestly. It was very much a friend of a friend situation. So I got hired originally on Mum as a temp PA around the holiday season to help with wrap gifts. I got hired for 2 weeks because a friend of mine I went to school with put me in touch with Billy Ward, the assistant coordinator at the time.
Sure.
That's how my resume got in. But that was only a 2 week job. 6 months later, I must have made a good impression when I was there for those 2 weeks, and they called me back for a full-time PA gig over there. So it was, it was being in the right place, the right time, knowing the right people, getting a temp job and making the most of that opportunity by, proving myself and hustling to be recognized by the hiring to be brought back for another season.
Yeah, well, it's true because I did want to hear that story because a lot of people may get discouraged because it's like, hey, it's only 2 weeks for the holidays and then you're out.
Yeah,
And
no,
yes, I mean that's just kind of like the case on for that day, but it doesn't mean that there something might
absolutely.
not up. So yeah, I do like that, for example,
Hmm
we took advantage of situations of just being in the room, just being in the environment and just kind of letting
hmm
know
A
we're here.
100%, especially because your reputation is so big in this industry, right? And I think you probably will talk to or have talked to Katie about it, but she works a lot of these events where it's short periods of time for only a few days. But like, seeing somebody in a work environment for a couple of days and kind of like you can get a sense for how somebody's going to be as an employee really quickly. So like even when we offer short term 1 or 2 day or like week long gigs, it's important to take those and take those seriously because if you show up and put in that 110% for the 2 days you're there,
Yeah.
somebody will notice. And then that'll lead to being recommended by, the people who see you to other people or to get hired on their show in the future. And that's huge.
Well, just lastly, I always ask this, but like if you were to have to do this all over again, what would you say to yourself?
Um, Honestly, it would be to not ignore all the people who said how important networking is. Um, Networking in this industry in particular is so big. Every job that I've got in this industry is because of who I know and making connections and forming those relationships. It's the only reason I've got ahead and been able to find jobs and get promoted. And I heard that all the way through school. Everybody, when I was moving out here, was always like, make sure you go to networking events, make sure you meet people, make sure you stay in touch with your community. And I don't think I really took that as seriously for, the first 5 years of my career.
Right.
And I regret that because my network's smaller than it needs to be at this point, and that's really important for, you know, not even getting jobs, just being able to get things done, right? Having relationships with all the different departments of the studios or having relationships with the coordinators and department heads on other shows is good to curry favor and to be able to make your life easier, especially working in production and eventually producing. Being respected by crew members and knowing different people and different places is key to getting things done. So yeah, if I had to change anything, it would honestly just be put more effort into that earlier in my career because it's so huge and it's not something that you can really like build up later. You kind of got to start with a strong foundation and move forward from that.
Yeah, I think that for me, I benefited a lot from trying to get to know every department that was out there because
Yeah.
you never know like what info you can gather from a
Mm-mm.
construction coordinator, from even just the studio operations people. Like,
hmm
yeah, there's a lot of
Exactly.
uh, you always
Yeah, I
want
mean,
to know what's coming in, or you want to know
hmm
what's
Yeah,
leaving, or
you
you
definitely
never
do.
know.
That and like I want to be a producer, right? Like I want to end up becoming a production manager or line producer. So for me, as a coordinator at this point early in my career, it's really important for me to learn what all of the different departments do as well. And I feel like a lot of people who go into management kind of underappreciate that. But like, going to an electrician and being like,
Mhm.
why does it take you an hour to wire up this light fixture? What do you need to do? How do the lights work? Where does the power come from? Like asking people in the set decoration department, how do you shop for stuff? How do they charge us for stuff? How do your holds work? And like knowing all those intricate details of how departments operate that I really don't need for my job, but being able to talk knowledgeably to department heads about what their trades are and what tools they need and what their process is so huge. and really just like showing different departments and their trades the respect they deserve to like know what they're doing so you can see that and help implement that in the future and help them get to their goal and eventually help the show become what it should be.
All right. Well, to close out, can you give us some inspiring words from Alex Ayer?
Inspiring words. No, I'm going to be cliche because honestly, it really is just to get in this industry, it's just grind and don't give up because once you get that opportunity that one day in front of the right person,
Yeah.
you will get in if you are good and worth bringing on. So it's really just keep going until you get that opportunity and don't get discouraged because like it happens real quick when it happens. So
Mhm.
keep trying. It's not pointless.
All right. Well, thank you, Alex.
Sweet.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
your
Hugo.
time.
Yeah. Thank you, man. See you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.